everybody to our regional leadership workshop on transportation. Wow, this is quite a crowd. I can't believe how many people are here and interested in something like metropolitan planning organization governance. But it's great to see so many people here, and we're delighted that you're a part of this important event. This is probably the most significant meeting we've had on regional transportation in a long time. And I know many of you have been involved in this for many, many years. I'm Whit Blanton. I'm the Executive Director of Forward Pinellas, and I want to welcome you to Pinellas County and welcome you to this important day as we chart our future as how we make stronger decisions regionally. So we're going to start off with some very brief remarks from two of the folks who serve on our Transportation Management Area Leadership Group. We have Councilmember Doreen Caudell of the City of Clearwater and Councilmember Harry Cohen of the City of Tampa. So, Councilmember, please come up.
Thank you, Whit. And I prepared some remarks here, so just bear with me for one moment. Good afternoon, or good morning, everyone, actually. I'm already speeding into the afternoon here. I'm looking forward to the weekend. I just got back from a trip overseas where they've got all modes of transit, which is really kind of interesting and fun. Anyway, so I just want to welcome all of you, and I just want to go over what we do. And we are Pinellas County's MPO, which is now Forward Pinellas. We're an independent county-wide agency that works across the city and county lines, and we engage in the community regionally in planning. This creates a brighter future for Pinellas County and our region. We do this by guiding county-wide land use to support wise decision about growth and redevelopment and sustained equitable economic development. Now, what that means is that it creates a well-connected neighborhood, district, and downtown foundation for wholesome jobs from St. Pete to Tarpon Springs and everywhere in between. We also make decisions about transportation investments that fit our visions and goals and ensure both safety for our county and accessibility for our residents and visitors, which, as we all know, our visitors are very important to our region. Our adapt, build, connect strategy fosters economic growth and sustainable through engagement with our community, our residents, and most importantly, our stakeholders, which are all of you in this room. It's very important. We are also strong believers in regional transportation. That includes all modes, giving people and freight affordable and efficient choices for reaching their destinations. Residents and visitors want to visit our beautiful beaches. They want to visit culturally rich, diverse regions. And most importantly, they need to get to their place of business, and many people in one county or another work for one county and live in the other. You may have heard me say omnimodal once or twice, maybe. But all modes in something I am passionate about. But what does that mean? What does omnimodal mean? It means we need to look at our region and our connections and define how best we meet the needs of the different users. That includes people, whether on foot, bike, transit, car, or any new technology. And we have all heard emerging technologies. We also need to look at this for emergency responders. We also need to look at this for freight, both long haul and local. It means we understand the context of land development, both today and how it will look in the future. And how best to develop our transportation networks to fit that across the region, in our communities and our neighborhoods. This is very important. I'm excited that today, in this workshop, which I am so excited about how many people are here, that we can reach an agreement on guiding principles and objectives on how we work better together and stronger as a unified region. It's important we hear your voice and frame the next steps. So please be proactive in providing your insight. Thank you all for being here, and take these important first steps forward for a unified Tampa Bay. Thank you.
And now Councilmember Harry Cohen.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. And I have to tell you, not to beat a dead horse, but it is so exciting to see so many people here this morning, because for those of us that have been part of the transportation leadership group over the last few years, we have really dreamed of the day where we could get together, get representatives from all of the different areas of the region into one room to talk about how we can better work together. Our MPO in Hillsborough County does many of the things that Councilmember Caudell just described to you. But we do these things generally in a vacuum in terms of what's going on in Pinellas and Pasco counties and around us. And all of us recognize that if we work together, we will be much more effective in providing transportation solutions for the hundreds of thousands of people that are going to move into this region over the next decades. So thank you all very, very much for being here this morning. I know that all of us from Hillsborough County and from Tampa and from all the surrounding areas are looking forward to working together to seeing our region really, really reach its potential. So thank you very much.
I know we have a number of elected officials in the room today, and I can't possibly pick you out and call you out, so if you could please stand, and we can acknowledge and thank you for your time being here today. Now, they're all at the front of the room, which means they're eager to participate. So I hope everybody's equally eager to participate. We have a very full agenda for you today, and I think you'll find it to be very productive today. So thank you very much. Ray, do you want to say a few remarks now?
Yes.
Right.
Wanted that to be a little bit louder, but anyway. I'm going to try to clear your mind a little before we start this kind of intense day here. I'm very excited. I cannot believe that you're all here for this, but I'm not surprised because we are entering a different century and a different universe. And I want to talk a little bit about that. I'm kind of excited because I just got back from New York after not being there for 32 years. For the National Planning Conference, and I'm going to paraphrase some of the things I heard, primarily from a man named Peter Layden, who is the founder of Wired Magazine and the first executive senior editor there 20 years ago, and he talked about where we're going and what technology is doing to our society. New technology is transforming us in a largely positive way. Although if you watch the news, you would never get that. So I want you to forget the daily grind of negativity on the news. The stories are just symptoms of what we're going through. And what we're going through is a change, a big change. Technology is reinventing the world the way agriculture did in 1800, the way early industrial did in 1850, urban industry in 1900, and in 1950, the post-war suburban boom that this country went through. We are in something as significant as that. And if you think about some of the things that have happened in the last 20 years, I think you'll understand that. We have to understand every period restructures politics, cities. We're digitizing everything on a worldwide level now, reorganize everything on a global level. Unfortunately, or fortunately, we're living in it and we can't really see what's happening clearly unless we really think a little bit about the past and where we've come from. We're only just beginning this adventure. This is not a way we can go through these changes without turmoil and pain. I know Rick Homans, when the first bill came out about T-BARTA, said, Ray, change is difficult. Well, my message to you is, whatever we do that fundamentally changes the way we move ahead is not going to be easy, but that doesn't mean we have to do it. We have to look at these things. We have to decide what to take with us from the past and what to reinvent for the future. So there is going to be turmoil. Every 2 years now, we are doubling the digital power, lowering the price, and increasing the speed of technology in this country. Just for an example, in 1975, the largest computer in the world cost $31 million. It has less power than your cell phone, less memory. So you're walking around with a $31 million device in 1975. From 8000 BC to 2003, we gathered less information than from 2003 to 2014. Think about that. The entire history of the world as we know it up to 2003, we have doubled that in the last 12, 13 years. So we are entering a different world, and so we have to think differently. 75% of the world has access to cell phones now, 40% to the internet. We're reaching a tipping point on so many fronts. Look at what's happening with transportation, with urban Uber and Lyft. I mean, they didn't even exist 10 years ago, and they're changing the way we're doing things. Autonomous vehicles hitting the core of our cities is coming quick. Hardly any passenger air travel before 1950. And some of us, like well, I don't remember 1950, but almost. But I do remember when a lot of people didn't fly. And now we have 3 billion people a year using air travel, 3 billion trips. Just 10 years ago, there was no tech company in the 5 companies, top companies in the world. Now all 5 are top tech companies. No ExxonMobil or General Electric is in the top 5 anymore. So again, generational change. I don't want, since I'm a baby boomer, I don't want the other baby boomers to get mad at me, but this is the reality here. In 10 years, the millennials and Gen X will dominate the workforce, and the baby boomers will largely not be in the workforce. And that's just the reality. 80% of our workforce in 2025 will be Gen Xers and baby boomers. 10% their kids, and 10% baby boomers. So we're going to have a big shift in how the world is viewed, whether we like it or not. It's going to happen. Millennial generations tend to be tech savvy, baby boomers are media savvy. They tend to be collaborative, baby boomers tend to be individualistic. They tend to be a little more civic minded, we tend to be indulgent sometimes. Very diverse generation, most diverse in the history of the United States. Baby boomers were largely white. There's just so many differences, and those are going to affect how we move forward. 10,000 baby boomers every single day retire. So it is a different paradigm. So we can't go through this without turmoil, difficulty, and change. But we have to go through it because it's going to happen. So what we need to do is figure out how to get through this period of change in the best way, working together as much as we can to deal with the difficult issues that we have. And certainly what we're talking about today for the governance of how we do transportation planning is an important issue. We're going to end up with something new, there's no doubt about it, whether we like it or not. So with that, I'm going to go through a few things and provide a little context here. We decided to go back in time, and it really tells you what's happened in the last 100 or so years. The Tibarda area in 1920 had 192,000 people. Now it has 4,630,000 people. You can look at the counties. Some grew by vast amounts, like Pasco County, which would have been almost one of the smallest counties there. Now is one of the largest counties. I mean, huge growth and change in this region. And if you go back and look at areas like Chicago and New York, not so much difference. They were still giant cities and all that. We were nothing resembling what we are now. 2040, even more so. Now we're approaching almost 6 million people in our region, and that's the larger 8-county region. You can see the population. Hillsborough will almost be 2 million people by 2040. Pasco's almost 750,000 people. Again, we are moving forward. When you look at the population growth and comparing it to the TMA, one thing becomes clear. Everything is growing. However, the areas outside the TMA are becoming a bigger portion of the regional population. So we have to understand that the 3-county center of the region, the transportation management area, is still going to have a lot of people coming into it from the surrounding areas. Tampa Bay is unique. This is Atlanta from the air. This is Charlotte from the air. You notice they're kind of like a spot in the center, and we're kind of a spot in the center with 400 square miles missing in Tampa Bay. It is what it is. It doesn't mean we can't work together. It's just we are more complex than these areas. We simply are. So what we come up with might be unique to this area, not exactly the same thing that they have. We're now the 11th largest television market between Atlanta and Phoenix. Again, something I would have never imagined as a child here, that we would ever be that big an area. Traveling across counties for work, 402,000 according to the American Community Survey. There's other surveys that even show more people going between counties. For example, in Pasco, in this survey, 48% or 84,000 people are leaving Pasco County to work in different counties out of the 178,000 total workers. Again, just to emphasize that people are moving throughout the region in a non-political way. They're moving because that's the way their life functions. This is a chart that will be provided to you, but it just shows what the communication is between each county as far as commuting. Airport travel. Only 16% of the passengers out of TIA live in Hillsborough County. In fact, 57% of the passengers don't even live in the Tampa Bay region. So again, you have a mixing of all these different groups together in our region. So what are we trying to do today? We're trying to define how the MPOs are structured in this region. Trying to define what successful regional coordination can mean for Tampa Bay. Identify the areas to its execution. What are our options? Build consensus. This is not a day to hide 800-pound gorillas and not talk about it. We have to discuss the important issues, like how do you deal with local issues? How do you pay for it? Those kind of things need to be talked about. We need to outline the existing conditions, and this is the best practices phase one of a 6-month process that this is really the beginning of. So outlining the existing conditions and regional coordination process is what the study will do, and the input that we have here today will go into the beginning of this. How are projects identified and prioritized? What is the structure of governance between the cities, the counties, and regional? Funding sources and uses, the benefits and the drawbacks of each. It's going to study case studies. We're going to look at other communities over the 6-month period and in research compare the efforts here and outcomes with other regions of Tampa Bay. Highlight key findings according to principles and definition of success from this workshop. Outline several options for a stronger regional coordination framework or MPO merger. If we need we're going to have a collaborative workshop again. We're scheduled for September 18th, and that's where whatever this study has is going to prevent research phases 1 and 2 to hopefully the same group. Build consensus on a preferred regional coordination framework and implementation procedures, and then have the ability to have an optional third workshop that will be held if consensus on a preferred option is not reached at that time. This kind of is a timeline of where we're going. We're right at the beginning here. We have a contract out that would be approved by the TBARTA board June 9th from the people that have bid on that. Then research phase 1 starts in July, research phase 2 in August, and then a milestone report, and then moving forward with recommendations coming in December. Pending those results, affected MPO directors, staff, and respective county representatives will discuss and agree on a revised structure. That's the goal. If a decision to merge is made, a designation appointment plan will be drafted and submitted to FDOT District 7 and the Office of Policy Planning for review and recommendation to the Governor's Office. Then appropriate study committees would be formed and workshops to help guide this process. Meetings would be obviously open to the public. Remember, the decision on MPOs is largely made by the MPOs and the governor. Now, obviously, the legislature has a role in it, but that is where the bottom line is. And that hopefully will get you off in a good frame of mind to really tackle some tough issues and be open and honest and talk about things and move forward. Beth Alden, if you would come up. Beth is going to go through our agenda today and what we're going to try to accomplish. Thank you.
Thanks, Roy. And so I'm going to draw your attention to our agenda packet. And we are going to be doing basically sort of two different things this morning, today. We'll be first in small group discussions, and then we'll be reconvening in this room. When you reconvene in this room, we'll have box lunches back there in the back for you to pick up. So if you can just come in, turn in your ticket, grab a box lunch, and then have a seat. So we are planning to have interactive discussions through the entire period of time. I also wanted to draw your attention to a couple of the informational handouts that are in your agenda packet. The first one is a very short summary and timeline of the best practices study that Ray just described, that will be conducted by an independent organization and then come back to us with some great ideas from the rest of the country. And they are going to be doing that research based on the feedback that you give here today. That is built into their scope of work. I also wanted to share with you just a quick couple of things about MPOs. Ray mentioned, let's learn from the past. Let's keep the things that are great and maybe get rid of the things that haven't worked so well. So, quick, short summary. MPOs, you may or may not know, MPO is just a generic term in federal law. They describe what the process should be for metropolitan planning and for local governments to come together to agree on priorities and how federal funds should be spent. But it doesn't say who should do that. That's up to us to decide who actually does that mandated planning effort. A lot of MPOs, about half of MPOs across the country, are housed with regional planning councils. Regional planning councils are typically a creation of state laws, and they typically do whatever the state asks them to do, like coordinate growth decisions, or coordinate infrastructure, or look at environmental issues. Here in Florida, there are 4 MPOs that are housed with regional planning councils that you probably think of off the top of your head. We also have 2 MPOs that are housed with agencies that were created by the state to coordinate comprehensive planning across jurisdictional boundaries. And those are the Pinellas Planning Council and the City County Planning Commission of Hillsborough County. So they were special purpose organizations created by the state for cross-jurisdictional planning, looking at a variety of different issues. And so it has made sense up to this point for the transportation planning to also be handled by those agencies. So that's how we got where we are. We have also been doing a lot of regional planning and coordination in Tampa Bay for a long time. And I just bring this to you because a lot of things have been tried. So let's try to learn from the past. The legislature in the early 1990s created the Tampa Bay Commuter Rail Authority, which actually came up with 2 different plans for rail service connecting counties. We were not able to come up with funding to implement those plans, and so they did sit on the shelf. They're still in the Planning Commission library if anybody wants to look at them. In the meantime, the MPOs of this area got together and formed the very first alliance in the state of MPOs across county boundaries, and that was the MPO Chairs Coordinating Committee. We also created the very first regional long-range transportation plan in the state back in 2004. We had a rail project that was actually on the federal New Starts list that was approved by the environmental impact statement was approved by the feds. It was in our cost feasible long-range transportation plan and in the regional plan. And because we did not choose to move forward with a funding source for that project, we had to take it out of the long-range transportation plan, and 2 months later it was removed from the federal New Starts list. We have had a high-speed rail project completely planned and designed and funded for connecting Tampa to Orlando, and that was canceled. And we have had TBARTA created by the legislature, done amazing visioning, amazing levels of analysis supported by the Florida Department of Transportation. Just, the level of kind of public involvement and technical analysis that, we've never been able to achieve before a lot of community buy-in on that. 2 different counties putting sales tax referenda on the ballot to make pieces of that happen, and we haven't been able to move forward with that either. So I'm only bringing this to you because it's not like we haven't been trying, and we're going to have to be thinking more creatively with some other strategies for how to move forward in the future. So you also have in your packets a map of the urbanized areas as they are defined by the U.S. Census. The census did merge the Tampa urbanized area with the St. Pete urbanized area back in 1990. Hernando, the Spring Hill, Brooksville urbanized area is part of our same metropolitan statistical area, according to the U.S. Census. And with the 2010 census, we probably would have been merged with the Lakeland urbanized area as well if the Census Bureau hadn't changed how they handle MPO, urbanized area merger decisions. So we have strong links between all of these counties. Ray already showed you the cross-county commuter flows. And then we also wanted to share with you the size and scale of regional MPOs around the country. So if we look at what some of our peers are doing, we're talking about in Atlanta, a 20-county MPO area, 6 million people, 6,000 square miles. Kansas City, 9 counties, 4,500 square miles. So we are talking about a scale that's a lot larger than the level at which we've been doing MPO planning here in Florida. So I'm going to wrap up with that now and hand it off to Andrea Henning with Collaborative Labs to talk more about how the flow is going to go this morning.
Thank you. Thank you, Beth. And good morning, everyone. My name is Andrea Henning. I'm with the Collaborative Labs at St. Petersburg College, and it is our privilege to host you today. How many of you have ever experienced a Collaborative Labs process? All right, so you're familiar. It's great to have you here. And just so you know, we are part of St. Petersburg College. We have been facilitating statewide types of convenings and regional convenings for the past 13 years. And we walk out with accelerated collaborative plans. So you are in the right place today to do some great collaboration. It's also an honor to work with my partner and consultant, Rafael Montalvo with the Consensus Center. And Rafael, can you come and get us started this morning?
Sure. I'll hand it back to Andrea in just a second. As Andrea said, my name is Rafael Montalvo. I am the facilitator for the Transportation Management Area Leadership Group. And I work with them under the auspices of the Consensus Center in Tallahassee. The Consensus Center is actually a state entity. It was created by the legislature to help groups like this one collaborate around making public policy decisions, and to do that without being aligned with any of the parties at the table. So that's my role and my perspective here today. We'll go over the agenda in some detail in a moment, but I want to offer a couple of overarching comments before we do that. As Ray's timeline makes clear, I hope, this is the beginning, not the end, of at least a 10-month process, and very, very possibly a longer process. And that 10-month or longer process is embedded in what has been, as Beth's comments make clear, a continuing discussion around transportation coordination in this region. So you're here today at a particular point in a very extended series of developments. I say that because today we're not asking you to make any decisions. We are asking for a sense of the room, and we'll be asking that in different ways, a sense of the room, a snapshot of your thinking today that will feed into the study and help shape how it's structured, what they look at, and the kinds of recommendations they make. But this is not by any means your only opportunity to engage with that study. There will be the milestone reports, there will be reports to each of the participating entities, there will be the September workshop, there may be other workshops. So we very much want to get a sense of your thinking today, but it's a very full agenda, and we have enough time to get a sense of your thinking. We don't have enough time for the extended, really rich discussions that we know many of you will be wanting to have. Again, I point to that now because you will have other opportunities to have that kind of engagement. I hope that'll make you a little bit more patient with our time constraints today. There are lots of different perspectives in this room, and that was our hope convening this process. It's part of the value of this meeting today. You come to this with lots of different opinions, lots of different experiences around transportation, and we need to hear from all of you. We have people here who've been involved in transportation for 30 years. We have people who are simply residents or citizens of this area who care passionately about the topics we'll be discussing. The intent today is for everybody to participate on an equal footing in the discussions and in shaping the snapshots we'll take of the room today. So we'll be doing that in small groups and also in plenary. Because you have that range of perspectives, a couple of guidelines, and I won't belabor these because I think you would all follow them in any case. But respect the different perspectives. You may have people in your group who feel very differently than you. They have good reasons for feeling differently, and just listen to understand. Listening to them does not mean you agree, it means you want to understand them. It's a short period of time today. Speak to be understood, not necessarily to persuade. If what you say persuades others in your group, that's wonderful. We're moving in the direction of greater agreement. But if it doesn't, that's okay. Do your best to clarify your assumptions, your questions, and why you're saying what you're saying, but don't necessarily get into a back and forth that tries to persuade others. Be open to exploring ideas you may not think you like. Be open to even suggesting ideas you may not think you like. Putting an idea on the table does not mean you agree with it. It means you think it should be talked about, whether it's your idea or not for today. So that leads to the third set of comments I'd like to offer. We have lots of facilitators in the room today. We are thick on the ground today. There are myself, Andrea. Andrea's team is here, and one of us will be in each of the 4 breakout rooms that we'll be sending you to in a moment. In addition, each table will be will have a table recorder and facilitator. Their role is the same as our role. It's to ensure that all of you have an opportunity to be heard. It's to help you have a productive discussion, and it's to record your ideas and comments as thoroughly as they can. We would like to ask you to pretend that this is Be Kind to Your Facilitator Day. They and we will be moving you on from one question to the next much faster than you would normally like. Much faster, in fact, than we would like. But this is an opportunity to shape the study going forward, and it's important to get to the range of questions that we have for you. So please be patient with us, knowing that you'll have an opportunity to offer additional input as this goes forward. I'll talk a little bit about the questions and then give it back to Andrea to talk about the logistics. There are 2 overarching questions for today. They are on the back of your agenda at the top, at the 10:45 session, and I'll note it's 10:45. What benefits and outcomes would you hope for from greater regional coordination? So this is the beginning of a more focused exploration, this study, of regional transportation coordination. If that coordination goes forward, what would make it good in your view? What kinds of outcomes would make it good? And these are descriptions. So it would involve everyone who is affected by the decisions. That might be an outcome, characterization of the structure that results from this. That might also be an answer to the second question. What principles should guide further exploration of regional coordination? Those 2 questions overlap. And they're fuzzy. This is not an analytical exercise. You don't have to spend time figuring out, am I really offering an outcome or am I really offering a principle? Think about it, do your best. But these are prompts to ask you to think about what would make for good regional coordination, okay? So it doesn't matter if your answers are exactly one or the other. It doesn't matter if your answers are fuzzy. It doesn't matter if your answers are from your experience or from your expertise. We just want to hear from you.
what outcomes would you want and what benefits would you want from greater regional transportation coordination? And as people in this region explore that coordination, what principles should guide their exploration? So please don't feel inhibited by the questions in any way. Virtually any answer is a good answer to those questions as long as it reflects your thinking and what you think is important. Don't worry about whether you're really on, doing what the question suggests. You will be as long as you're engaging in the discussion. Okay. At the same time, think about it. What's the outcome? What's the benefit that would make this regional coordination good for you, and what principles should guide that? You could ask for additional examples when we get to your rooms, but again, outcomes describe the end state. So one outcome might be important regional projects move forward. That's an outcome. A principle might be costs are equitably shared. But again, don't worry a whole lot about that distinction. There are 4 topics that we will be asking groups to address. So when you leave here, we'll go to one of 4 breakout rooms. In each of those rooms, there will be a group addressing one of these topics. The topics are on your agenda as well. Processes, the first topic is processes for identifying and advancing priority projects. That is not a discussion about projects. We really want to make that clear. That's not a discussion about projects. It's a discussion about how you identify priorities. What's the process for identifying priorities? What would make for a good process? The second one is linking unique communities, protecting local character while strengthening regional coordination. That's a balancing question. How do you do both of those? 3, the mission roles and areas of responsibility of an ideal coordinating structure or agency. And 4, this originally said housing and feeding, and we had all sorts of interesting discussions about what it meant to feed a coordinating structure. So it's a little simpler now, housing and funding. Where should it be, in one place or many? How do you find the resources for that additional coordination? So all of you should have on your name tags the name of a room, a breakout room, and I will actually just turn it over to Andrea, and I apologize, I didn't even talk about the slides, but Beth went over the agenda. We'll send you into the small groups. We'll ask you to, and your facilitators will have more instructions, but we'll ask you to answer the first question, and then they have a process for you to pick the 3 most important outcomes or benefits that your group talked about, and then you'll talk about the second question, the principles. And your facilitators will have a process to pick the 1 or 2 most important principles, and then we'll take that input and work with it in plenary in the afternoon.
All right, so you are going to leave this room and go to the collaborative labs, and it is a short, brisk walk down the hallway. You'll head out, hang a right, you'll pass restrooms on your way, and you'll then go on the right to the collaborative labs. I think it's about 250 steps on your Fitbit each way. So that's good. And then before you leave, if I may just give you a couple quick instructions. Your table facilitators / recorders that we have combed the region, we found the very best who will be there with you. They will be driving this cool brainstorming software. So they take the heavy lifting lead on this part. You all just need to share your wisdom one idea at a time, and you will record your ideas. As Raphael mentioned, you'll eventually reach consensus on the top 3 ideas for benefits and outcomes for the topic that you select. And I'll just reiterate, once you make your way to the one of the 4 labs, either the forest, the tropics, the water, or the beach, then you will select which of the 4 topics you feel you can add the most value to. And so you're in charge of which of the topic areas you go to. And then we will work through 2 questions, the benefits, outcomes questions, as well as guiding principles to guide us as we move forward in thought about a regional transportation coordination. So are you ready to roll with me? I will meet you in the Tropics Lab at 11, and then we will reconvene back here at noon. Any other parting words before we become in motion?
No, but does anyone not know which room they'll be going to? Look at your tag. If you just walked in today, do they have a room assignment as well? Okay, so if you just walked in today and wrote your own name tag and don't have a room assignment on it, come to the front of the room and Andrea and I will help you figure out which room to go to. Is there anybody who has a printed name tag but doesn't see their room assignment? Good?